Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's the 18th of October. We are Signal Centre Talking Ball. I'm Joe Neighbour, joined by Steve O'Hare. Morning, Steve.
Good morning, mate.
How you doing?
All right, all right. Enjoying this crypto rally. It's really good fun.
It is strong, isn't it?
Very strong.
Thank you for covering for me last week. All good while you was by yourself for a
Yeah,
couple of
well,
days.
I finished off with a couple of winners. I think Thursday I
You got
did a decent
DAX,
one.
didn't you? You got DAX
Hit
win.
DAX on Thursday, which was really nice. And Cable, I think, ended up a little bit in profit. It was better halfway through the day, but come back towards the end, and I think it's back below where I bought
Lovely.
it now. But yeah, that
Cool.
was all right. Yeah.
Good. Okay, so latest headlines coming out of, well, it's affecting the markets this morning. European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde has warned that the globalised nature of the euro area's economy makes it highly vulnerable to systemic shocks from supply chain disruptions. She also said that the current spike in inflation is unlikely to last, echoing the same kind of line that we're seeing from Jerome Powell in the States. Although the UK looks set to push up interest rates at the next meeting in early November as they try to target inflation. So obviously more concerned that that's not going away as opposed to the spike that we're seeing in Europe and the US. We'll have to wait and see who's right ultimately. In terms of China, the economy weakened in the third quarter, weighed by multiple headwinds from the property slump, also across to an energy crisis. The gross domestic product expanded 4.9% from a year earlier, down from the previous reported 7.9% in the preceding quarter. On Bitcoin, as Steve mentioned, it's had a really good rally, and I guess we've seen that across a lot of the altcoins as well. Bitcoin rallied after falling over the weekend ahead of an anticipated US exchange traded fund approval. Um, we saw it above 62,000 earlier today, and it's in focus again today as this ETF future or futures ETF tied to the token looks as though it may debut today. In terms of what's going on the corporate side of things, Netflix estimates that its latest mega hit, Squid Game, will create around 900 million in value for the company. That's according to latest figures seen by Bloomberg. So it just shows how they're only ever one mega hit away from having a bumper year when it comes to their earnings. So pretty
Yeah.
impressive. Have you seen it yet, Steve?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
I've not had a
Load of
chance yet.
rubbish.
My kids have watched it. A load of rubbish.
It's one of those compulsive viewing things. You sort of you watch it and there's something about it which you don't like. I mean, it's pretty gory, so and it all seems a little bit pointless, but it makes for compulsive viewing. You want to see what happens in the end, and yeah, it sort of doesn't disappoint in the end. So yeah, but overall rubbish. But yeah, you've got to watch it.
Okay, I will do that. Also on the corporate front today, Apple will finally unveil its redesign of the MacBook Pro, which is the first time it's done that in 5 years. So there'll be a lot of people anticipating that event later on today, and keep an eye on the market fallout from that as well. So let's get stuck into some charts, Steve. Anywhere you want to particularly want to start today?
Yep, I want to sort of highlight the. I keep thinking in my head now that you mentioned that that program, red light, green light. It's like, yeah, it's you'll know what I mean when you see it. Now, one thing I want to really, before we dive into the technical side of things, I do want to highlight a little bit of a story which I've picked up on this morning. It's a good friend of mine, Gary Portugal. He highlights really decent sort of like analysis on LinkedIn. And this one analysis who comes from Charles Henry Monchow, hope that I've pronounced that right, Charles, Chief Investment Officer at Size Group. I really like this, and I really like his take on it. So Bitcoin obviously has been banned in China. So this is what used to be the going back to August 1st, not 2019, mining in China was 75%. That has dropped to absolutely zero. Now, mining in the US was about 4%. It's now 35%. And funnily enough, the SEC this week have approved the ETF. So obviously positive for Bitcoin from a dollar perspective because it's been approved by the SEC. So we can now trade Bitcoin ETFs. And it's funny how now it feels a bit like a trade war-ish type thing. China banned it. Have they slipped up there? US adopting it. And now 35% of the mining taking place in the US. Quite incredible, really. So this goes to show that, you can't write these things off. I mean, Bitcoin for me, I've analyzed it okay over the last few years. Obviously, I highlighted this real big support, 28,800, which I said if we break below there, it is in real severe trouble, potentially going down to sort of like close to zero. The volatility within Bitcoin will never leave us, especially, well, I don't think it will leave us because of just how the actual product, the asset is formulated, is traded. What we've seen we've highlighted the potential for further upside. We're trading around this resistance area. This is a weekly chart, remember, and we got the all-time high here at 65,000. I mean, it's primed to take it out. However, we have to break above it. We have to close above it for that to be confirmed and further upside to be confirmed. And then 100,000, 200,000, whatever in Bitcoin, the potential is there. But we will always have these retracement levels until we get the full adoption globally, which I don't think will happen for a good while yet. There are other coins to watch out for, but looking at the levels in particular, 65,000 on a daily basis is the target. A little bit of indecision over the last few days, but further upside I expect, and we expect to see this. But we are seeing bearish divergence, so momentum is stalling, we're overbought, price is moving higher. So for me, from a technical perspective, from a trading perspective, I'd look to fade this move to 65,000. I would, not sell it, not stick an order in to sell it at 65,000. I'd rather wait to see what the reaction is, let it go through 65,000, and then with a close below 65,000, that might be the opportunity to fade the move for a little pullback, little bit correction. I'm not saying it's going to reverse, just saying that there should be a correction at some point. We've had a decent move up. Ethereum, talk of this as well being one of the next big things. We've seen a shooting star. We saw that that's Friday. Yesterday, sorry, that's Saturday. Yesterday was a bit of indecision as well. Again, same sort of thing. We're seeing this upward move with momentum slowing down. So we are potentially at an all-time high for 4,000. Oh, sorry, we're not at the all-time high yet, 4,380, all the way back here in May 21. We've seen this swing high in September, and we're stalling just around that level. So potential for, again, another fade trade, but if it breaks 4,025, I expect it to hit 4,380. That would happen when Bitcoin flies through the highs, I expect. Ripple isn't really having the same effect. It's still under a bit of pressure. Trend line resistance comes in at currently around about the 50% Fibonacci retracement level. So today that comes in at 126.5. Although the cloud is supporting at the moment, we had a bit of a dip down yesterday, recovered quite nicely, just a bit of sideways action in Ripple. Cardano hanging about this 215 level. For me, the 246 level is the line in the sand, really. Above there, I'd be pretty bullish. So we've got resistance up there, and below 189 providing support. Again, a bit sideways price action. Bitcoin seems to be front and center at the moment. Taking a look at commodities, oil continues to move higher, no slowing it down, no sign of any correction whatsoever. So, and we've had a gap on the charts this morning, as you can see from Friday's price action. The high of Friday on this is 81.93, the low today is 82.14. So we do have a gap, potential to fill that gap. Really needs to fill it within the first few hours, and then maybe potential to move higher again. On a long-term basis, further upside, we're looking at $88 really in the WTI crude oil. Brent crude oil has got a level at 86.62, which needs to be retested. That was the high from 2018. But we do have to remember that we're still only around 50% of the move from the high to the low from 2007, 2008 to 2020. We've only retraced 50%, whereas everything else is, getting back up to them all-time highs on the indices, on the cryptocurrencies, on the bonds. So yeah, the one underperforming thing, which you wouldn't have thought it because we've spoke about it for the last umpteen weeks, is oil. Still a long way to go to sort of catch up with that. Gold, interesting again. It's on a weekly basis, we're still in this flag formation. It's a bullish flag formation. I expect eventually a break to the upside. However, it is struggling with the dollar strength. There remains a little bit of overriding pressure on gold, and we expect that to continue. On the daily chart, one of my favorite formations that I look for is the evening star formations, and that really has been completed, and there looks to be further downside potential now. I think the 1740 to 50 areas level of support, then we got the 1720, but I do believe we are going to be retesting 1677 sooner rather than later. 1834 on the upside is a level we have to clear to really sort of like start to march higher. So they're the real levels to watch. On the commodity side of things, indices looking pretty good. We've had a little bit of a pullback today, but finished on the highs last week in FTSE, closed at 7,247, so cleared the high from the August 21. Let's take a look at the weekly chart, see where that sits within the overall time frame. It's one of the markets, one of the indices that isn't at its all-time high, but it's doing its best. So really still finding resistance around these sort of like swing lows, which are providing worse support, and now providing resistance here around about the 72.50 area. Above that, 77.30. That's 500 points away. That's a long way to go for the FTSE. I can't see that yet. I still think we're going to stay for this grinding positive move higher. I don't think that's going to change. And obviously, as I say, we're seeing a little bit of a correction this morning. On the hopping across to DAX, DAX at its all-time highs, well, it's pulled off there. We found support at 14,800. We've projected higher, and still further upside expected there. And again, looking at this, I mean, these are the sort of formations that I love to see at the bottom of a trend. This is obviously mid-trend, but if you break it down to shorter time frames, it's after a sell-off. So the reaction here should be positive. So further upside, I think, in DAX this week. Again, further positivity in the Dow, the all-time high looking accessible, 35,630, not far away from there, about 400 points, maybe just one day's little uptick really in there. Again, the lows were bought all of last week, dips rejected, and positive price action expected again to kick in through this week. Earnings out, NASDAQ, obviously the tech side of things looking pretty good. Again, morning doji star formation, further upside expected this week. S&Ps, the high coming in just below 45.50. I expect that to be cleared this week as well. So again, further upside. Aussie 200, potentially further upside in that. It's looking pretty good overall. China 50, not so much. Maybe they've realized, oh, we've messed up with that Bitcoin thing, and it's like had a negative impact on the indices. Who knows? But bearish outside, bearish engulfing week as we start this week, but it's early days. So we have to see really where that closes by the end of the week. But a negative start after a rejection of the high last week. We can see that the daily Ichimoku cloud did provide resistance. We managed to close above it on the 13th, but back into the cloud on the 14th, and we've had 3 negative days since then. Potentially this one's still playing out. Found support around 15,550 and bounced off there. But yeah, a little bit of a different ball game in China. Hang Seng looking positive. Double bottom has formed. We've broken above the neckline of that at 24,800 and pushing higher. Next real big resistance is 26,800. We got a lot of cloud resistance prior to that as well. So Hang Seng looking positive. Nikkei also looking positive, broken above the cloud, although we have dipped at the start of this week. But again, I expect a further upside. Momentum's down, negative momentum stalling. We're about mid-range when it comes to the RSI. So I think a bit more positivity after we shake off this sluggish start to the week in Nikkei. That's about it, Joe.
Lovely. Thank you, Steve. Okay, FX. Dollar index. Still trading in this bullish channel. It's stalled at this 38.2% fib level, and it's just sort of finding support above 93.73 at the moment. Nothing really more to say than that. Expect it to hold above these levels, maybe as low as 93.43, at which point you're probably looking as though it's going to line up with this uptrend line, and we should attract fresh dip buying, I think. Still looking for higher prices. Ultimately, we need to get above these resistance levels here, the 38.2% fib, and above that, this previous swing high from back in September last year at 94.74. So still looking bullish there, which means euro dollar still looking pretty bearish overall. Need to clean these charts up a little bit, but big head and shoulders top as we've discussed. Still trading below the neckline of that. We have seen a rally into some resistance, and it seems to have failed. We've seen some sort of indecision on the candles. So expecting lower prices there, really. So a case of selling into resistance when it comes to Euro USD for now. Looking at cable, that's quite interesting because it's trying to break above this short-term downtrend line. I was of the opinion that it formed a bit of a double top, really, and we were looking for lower prices. We saw a big impulsive breakdown here. We saw a follow through the next day, but then since then, prices just continue to rally pretty solidly since then. So I was looking for a continuation lower. I mean, it's stalled a little bit. It's not really the biggest and cleanest break above this downtrend resistance level, but we'll have to wait and see. The volumes, aren't particularly stacking up either, other than that big high day that we saw there, which on the 7th of October. So looking to potentially sell rallies there as well, but just a little bit confused about that for now. So probably going to give that a bit of a wide berth from a trading perspective, from my personal point of view. Looking at Aussie dollar, that looks quite interesting. It's rallied into some significant resistance here between 74.05 to 74.50. Again, big head and shoulders top pattern that was completed a good few weeks ago. Potentially an inverse sort of bottom pattern forming here, but it's rallied into this level here, which for me is a pretty good level to sell it, with a stop just above those highs there at 74.89, looking to target a move lower in the short term. Obviously, bear in mind it has broken out above this short-term downtrend. Whether or not it can stick those gains, we'll have to wait and see. Yen, anything yen related, still sort of storming higher, particularly New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. That's up to new highs. It does look though as though we're stalling a bit today, though. The first sort of sign we've seen of that, the volumes have been dropping off a little bit on this push higher, forming potentially a shooting star candle on the daily chart. It is very early in the session to be calling that at the moment, but if this candle turns red, or even sort of stays where it is coming into the close later today, then that may indicate a short-term top, and we could see some fading of that currency pair in particular, with a move back down to the support level down here. And if we look at some of the other currencies linked to the Japanese yen, the US dollar versus Japanese yen has rallied into a significant level. This is a key resistance that goes back to 2017, actually. As you can see, a number of touch points along here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th time that we're attacking this resistance level. If it closes above, then that would obviously be a very good sign. But at the moment, it's stalling at that level, which may provide an opportunity to fade some of these gains that we've seen, because it has been pretty much one-way traffic in the last few sessions.
Interesting in that dollar yen, Joe.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Acuity market alerts this morning, and you can see these market alerts focusing on the green market alerts. They're the buy market alerts. they're all 60, 70, 80, 80, 90, 90, 90% confidence
Yeah.
in the market moving higher. They've worked really, really well. The fading ones, the selling ones, have been less confident, 50%, 40%, 40%. And we can see the sort of like the news sentiment from a news sentiment perspective. We've just had another one published on the 16th. That's looking for the price action to move higher within the next 9 days. And obviously, ING also talking about, because of the energy crisis as well, dollar yen to push above 150. I agree. I picked up on the technical side of things.
But look at the break lower on the sentiment. I think that's sort of what,
Yeah,
there is divergence there now, isn't there?
yeah. This sentiment moving lower. That's in the last 24 hours. So I think yes, we're going to find resistance at this technical level, but potentially I think it will be a dip buying opportunity. But like you say, I picked up on those technical levels going back to 2017, 2018, and there's some sort of decent resistance around here. So if we do manage to get above it, close above it, especially on a weekly basis, I think this is just going to continue. This dollar yen story is got much more to play out.
Yeah, I
Because we've had
agree.
the dollar strength, but we've also had this incredible yen weakness.
Yes, absolutely. Just to finish up on the yen side of things, this is euro yen. It was trading in a really nice range, but a massive breakout and not looked back since really. So the measured move of this sort of range pattern comes in at 133.53, and we're getting pretty close to that now. So that would have been a fantastic breakout trade if anybody had taken that. And again, like Steve said, the yen weakness doesn't really show any signs of stopping. The only ones that really concern me are the riskier assets that it's paired against, like Aussie and New Zealand
Yeah,
dollar, because they look super stretched. This is Aussie. Formed a really nice inverse head and shoulders, smashed through all these multiple resistance levels that we had, forming a bit of a doji today, still very early in the session. That's coming pretty close to these previous swing highs. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. That's it from me on the FX side of
nice one.
things. Okay, so gun to the head trades from last week. Obviously, I wasn't about for Thursday and Friday, but in my absence, Steve, you did a pretty sound job by the looks of things. Nice win on DAX, 2.5R. And I don't know if that's up to date, but I've got 0.4R on cable from Friday.
Yeah, yeah, I think that
Lovely.
was right. Yeah.
Happy days. Okay, so what do you fancy today? Obviously, had a good look at some of these cryptocurrencies. Anything in there that's taking your interest?
Um. Hmm, I'd like to avoid cryptos because I'd like to see how it reacts around where it's trading now. The one thing that's grabbing my attention is gold. I think there is, we look at the 4-hour chart, looks like a bit of a bearish flag potential. We've had this decent sell-off Friday and sideways price action ready for the next swing lower. So ideally, I'd like to sell a break of 1740 or something else like that. But we haven't got that benefit because we've got a gun to our head. So we have to come up with a trade idea. Let's just have a little Ichimoku cloud snuffle. Where's that? That's up there, so that's okay. So for me, we've reacted off 1762, trading at 1766, and we've got resistance at 1772. And I'd like to sell this. I think the dollar strength is going to continue, so I think this will remain under pressure. So I'm selling it at 1766.57. I'll put my stop at 1776.57, which is 10 ticks away or $10 away. And I'll look for, am I going to get greedy with that? No, I'm not. 2.5 to 1 risk reward, selling gold here, stop at 1776.57, targeting 1741.57, which is in line with, it's just below the support, really. It is being a bit greedy. Should I just go 2 to 1? Why don't I just go 2 to 1, Steve? Don't be greedy.
Just leave it.
It's like it's a marathon, not a sprint. 2 to 1 risk reward. Look at the take profit 1746.57.
Lovely.
I'm
Good
putting the
luck.
pressure on you, Joe, because
You
I
are
think
actually.
I'm starting to catch you up.
I know. I
But
just can't get anything going at the minute. It's been so flat and sideways. I haven't changed my style with this at all. It's been the same,
yeah,
doing the same thing every day. and obviously it goes through periods where it works really nicely, and other times it just doesn't work at all. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm going to stick with the same sort of strategy, and I'm looking intraday at New Zealand dollar, US dollar. On the daily chart, I really like the fact that it's rallied into this downtrend resistance, and it's forming, as it stands at the moment, a nice shooting star candle into this sort of band of resistance that I've got drawn on the daily chart. So expecting this to do a job. Got a nice little confirmation of a candle very early in the session, so a lot could change. But I want to sell this as it's at the top of this sort of small range on the intraday charts. This is the hourly. So I'm going to sell it now at 70.70. Stop loss at 71.11. Targeting a move down to these swing lows that we posted on the 29th of September at 68.60. So looking for 5.2R on that trade today.
It's
Big
like
numbers.
lovely. It feels like a big role reversal. I'm sort of like going for the little bit more conservative targets. You're going for the real punchy ones.
Yeah,
And I think I've just my mind, I've got into your mind, and I think that's it. You're sort of like,
I'm done. I'm
I've
on the
captured
ropes.
it.
I'm going to come
Yeah,
back swinging with this big 5R win today. So
yeah.
you better watch out, mate.
Listen, I'm related to Tyson Fury, mate. So
What, just
you
because you've
can,
got a
I
bit
can
of
just,
Irish blood in you?
yeah, yeah. That's that's
You're all
sort of like
related, are you lot?
must be some sort of cousin.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so nothing really on the economic calendar today. The weekend commentary from the Bank of England's Bailey saw the governor state that the bank would have to act in a bid to curb rising inflation, as we talked about earlier. So it looks as though the markets are now pricing in a rate rise before year end. We do have some industrial production data. It's not considered high impact today. Otherwise, it's pretty quiet on the economic front. So let's wrap it up there, Steve, for the day, and we can come back tomorrow and see where the land lies on the charts.
Excellent. Cheers, Joe.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.